17 strange things found underwater nobody can explain. Number 17. 7,500-year-old village. In 2014, an underwater expedition near Haifa, Israel, uncovered the remains of an extremely old village. The ruins, which turned out to be more than 7,500 years in age, date back to the Neolithic era of human development. The civilization which built these structures had not yet gained the use of metal or pottery. Tools found within the site were made of stone and bone. Other materials were used, such as plant fibers. Interestingly, the ruined village is possibly the oldest discovered location used for the production and refinement of olive oil. Thousands of crushed olive stones and other similar early olive oil production technology was found in areas within the site. Number 16. Ancient Greek computer. Perhaps one of the most well-known, but nevertheless also one of the most mysterious things ever found underwater is the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism has been described as a sort of ancient computer, and for good reason. The complex combination of gears and clockwork-like machinery was likely used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses, and was used to guide the creation of calendars as well as to provide astrological information. It was discovered in about 150 feet of water in a shipwreck off the Greek island after which the device was named, Antikythera. The discovery took place in July of 1900, but the device is believed to be more than 2,000 years old. Dating methods put the creation of the ancient Greek device at or around 87 BC. 15. Bimini Road. Just off the northwest coast of North Bimini Islands in the Bahamas, there is a very strange and mysterious configuration of limestone blocks, which has many experts baffled. The formation, which lies approximately 18 feet beneath the water, very closely resembles a man-made cobblestone road. The blocks forming the road are as small as 3 to 7 feet horizontally and as large as 10 to 13 feet, and seem to have more rounded corners. Even more strangely, the structure is perhaps 3,500 years old. The shape and age of these blocks have led many researchers to conclude that the Bimini Road is indeed man-made, but others aren't so sure. The location and depth underwater are unusual for that time period, as it is unclear if that area could have been dry at the time. In a book called 1421, The Year China Discovered America, the author and amateur historian Gavin Menzies claims that the road could have been built by Chinese Admiral Zhang during the time in which he and his fleet circumnavigated the globe. 14. Google Earth anomalies. Perhaps one of the strangest things to come out of our current technological age is the ability for anyone in a first-world country to access satellite imagery of our planet's entire surface. Just by sitting at your computer and firing up Google Earth, you can see everything from your own house to aerial views of Area 51. But one of the weirdest things to come out of that ability are lots of strange markings and formations in our planet's oceans. Amateur enthusiasts have found everything, from what appears to be huge vehicle tracks to potential secret military installations, UFO crash sites, and lost cities. While it's difficult to tell which of these could be real and which of these are just the human brain's attempt to find a pattern in anything, the fact remains that they are very interesting to look at, and statistically speaking, at least some of them have to be real. 13. Ancient Japanese monument. In 1987, a recreational diver named Kihachiro Arataki made a fairly astounding discovery when he was driving to observe sharks in the Yonaguni Sea on Japan's east coast. The find turned out to be a vast monument now called the Yonaguni Monument. The monument consists mainly of sandstones and mudstones, as well as rectangular formations and pillars. Oddly, many believe that the formations are natural and were not created by any ancient people. There are also those, however, who believe that the sharp edges and flat surfaces can only point to the involvement of humans. 12. Lake Michigan Stonehenge. A very strange discovery was made in Lake Michigan in 2007. Though the story went largely unnoticed for most of the last decade, 40 feet below the surface of the Great Lake lies what many have compared to Stonehenge, a formation of stone columns which does not appear to be natural in origin. Petroglyphs and stone monuments of this kind are exceedingly rare in North America, leading many researchers to remain skeptical about the authenticity of the site. But nevertheless, research continues to determine if the site is truly ancient in origin. 11. Apollo 11 rocket engines. Though they're not quite ancient by most standards, the remains of the colossal rocket engines used on the Apollo 11 missions were recently recovered from the Atlantic Ocean, after being underwater for more than 40 years since their use. The person responsible for the discovery and recovery is none other than Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, as well as Blue Origin, the commercial spaceflight competitor to Elon Musk's effort in the same arena, SpaceX. Bezos set out to find and recover the engines, and was successful in hauling enough parts for 2 engines to the surface. These parts included thrust chambers, turbines, nozzles, and parts of the Saturn V rocket's initial stage. Bezos and NASA then worked together to find a suitable home for the pieces, which were technically still NASA property when they were pulled out of the ocean. These components are now on display in the Museum of Flight, which is located just south of Seattle, Washington. 10. 1800s train graveyard. 2 large locomotives, which were originally built in the 1850s, were recently recovered off the coast of New Jersey under nearly 100 feet of water. Although it is currently believed that the engines were lost in a storm during transport by ship from Boston, there's not a definitive date or knowledge as to exactly when or how the trains were lost. These were steam locomotives, and as a result, the pictures are quite eerie. They show clearly defined smokestacks and huge wheels covered in the rust of more than a century and a half under the ocean waters. 9. Weird UFO thing. You know that when something has anomaly in the name, it's bound to be interesting. This is definitely the case for the Baltic Sea anomaly, which is a strange object found under the waters of the northern Baltic Sea, more specifically at the center of the Bothnian Sea. At about 200 feet in diameter, the circular rock-like formation is no small artifact, and it appears to be resting on top of a pillar. The structure is even complete with a staircase leading to a dark hole, and its strange appearance has led some to believe it is in fact the remnants of an alien spacecraft. More conventional explanations range from a sunken battleship gun turret to an anti-submarine device or even a natural formation. 8. World War II Ghost Fleet. Remnants from the various wars mankind has fought litter the surface of the Earth, but what many don't realize is that just as many, if not more, such relics can be found in the planet's oceans as well. For instance, in 1944, bombers from the Allied fleets laid waste to a lagoon in which was situated a large detachment of the Japanese Imperial Navy. This attack was so intense that many historians still refer to it as the Japanese Pearl Harbor. The resulting destruction saw hundreds of Japanese soldiers killed and many more craft, both of air and sea, sent to the bottom of the lagoon. The final count was 5 fleet carriers and 4 light carriers along with their accompanying support ships, as many as 500 individual aircraft. On board these ships were many dozens of land vehicles as well. In the cargo hold of one ship alone, there were nearly 400 soldiers, all of whom were killed in the attack. Today, the ships, trucks, and even tanks still rest there at the bottom, and the skeletons of the dead Japanese soldiers can still be found inside the vehicles. 7. The Palace of Cleopatra. The history of Alexandria is long and complicated, but it is also steeped in historical significance. It was originally founded by Alexander the Great in approximately 331 BC, and was later the site where Cleopatra would go on to make a play for the heart of Julius Caesar. It was a city which rivaled even the fabled Rome in terms of size and prosperity, and it was the seat of power for the Ptolemaic dynasty. In the 1990s, the European Institute of Underwater Archaeology was given access to parts of the Eastern Harbor, where the royal leadership of the dynasty held their quarters. It was there in 1998 that Frank Goddio made the discovery of Cleopatra's royal palace. Inside were many wondrous relics of all shapes and size, including a black granite sphinx thought to represent Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII. 6. Underwater river. It may seem strange to try to imagine an underwater river, but they do exist. One famous example of this phenomenon is the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The river called the Cenote Angelita is comprised of a thin layer of hydrogen sulfate, which separates the fresh water above from the salt water which makes up the river. The effect is quite striking. A foggy-looking river complete with banks and tree trunks sticking out of it, located some 60 feet beneath the surface of the water. This river is seen as just one example of the fact that we still have quite a bit to learn about what is possible right here on our own planet, especially since much of the planet's oceans remain unexplored beneath the surface. 5. Giant ancient structure. Under about 30 feet of water in the Sea of Galilee in Israel lies a very strange and mysterious structure, the size of which is difficult to imagine. Larger in diameter than the length of an airliner jet, the man-made structure resembles a large mound. Researchers made the discovery with sonar and originally didn't realize that it was in fact a creation of man, but further investigation revealed that it was in fact a relic of the Bronze Age, estimated to be between 2,000 and 12,000 years in age. The exact dimensions of the cone-like structure are 230 feet wide at the base, 32 feet tall, and about 60,000 tons in weight. The purpose of the structure is unknown at this time. 4. Manganese balls. In January 2015, German scientists located in the tropical region of the Atlantic Ocean made a strange discovery. While looking for deep-sea organisms on the floor of the ocean, they came upon a field of strange, dense, old metal balls. There are thousands of these balls, and they are made of a rare earth metal called manganese. In fact, this field is the largest deposit of such manganese orbs to ever have been discovered in the Atlantic Ocean. These types of balls have been found before, but it's exceedingly rare to find such a large cluster in the Atlantic. The balls range in size from a golf ball to a bowling ball, and the scale on which they've been discovered has tech companies watering at the mouth. Since manganese is a highly sought-after substance for gadget manufacturers, it's believed that the balls form bit by bit over the course of millions of years, which means that the layers could hold interesting clues about the ocean's composition in the past. 3. Ancient Egyptian City. Archaeologist Frank Goddio, who we mentioned earlier, apparently didn't want to stop at discovering relics from Cleopatra's palace. He also uncovered the lost Egyptian city of Heracleion, which was completely submerged underwater for more than 1,000 years when Goddio discovered it in 1996. He additionally made discoveries in a neighboring sunken city called Canopus, which was originally spotted by a British RAF pilot during World War II who noticed formations under the waves while flying overhead. Discoveries within the sunken cities include a vast array of statues, many of which seem to depict ancient Egyptian gods, including one statue which is more than 16 feet tall and weighs approximately 12,000 pounds. 2. Gulf of KHAMBHAT ruins. An ancient city discovered beneath the waters of the Gulf of KHAMBHAT was heralded as history-changing when it was first uncovered in 2002. Ocean scientists made the discovery by chance while conducting a pollution survey, finding an entire city more than 5 miles long and 2 miles wide. The ruins are believed to be older than the previous ruins in the region by a whopping 5,000 years or more, meaning that the scientists have had to rethink their picture of how civilization formed in the India region. Estimates put the site at an astounding 9,500 years old, and the city can be found at a depth of approximately 120 feet. 1. Living Jurassic-era microbes. Jurassic Park may be famous for its depiction of creatures from a long-gone era brought back to life, but we don't have to turn to fiction for a story like that. In 2012, a community of microbes was discovered buried within the Pacific Ocean's muddy floor after core samples were drilled out from a depth of 92 feet into the ground. The samples contained organisms which were dated back more than 80 million years and were amazingly still alive. The microbes appear to have doubled their biomass every 1,000 years, a rate exceedingly slow due to their lack of exposure to fresh oxygen. But the slow usage of energy reserves meant that the organisms were able to survive for millions of years. These so-called extremophiles give us hope of discovering similar hardy life forms on distant worlds, and also teach us quite a bit about how life can thrive in different conditions right here on our own planet.